And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. These words were famously said by President John F. Kennedy during his inaugural speech on January 20th, 1961. I'm not sure how much you've really been affected by these words, these 22 words that JFK decided to put together, but there are people out there who heard these words and their lives changed. That is why I decided to use JFK's inauguration speech to do this assignment. You might be wondering why you should listen to me. So I have watched multiple videos of this speech being given, as well as spoken to people who were actually alive when it was given. I also love history, so I found research that speaks on this topic as well. John F. Kennedy uses the end of his speech to make people aware of our job to help our country grow and that God should be in the center of this growth. In this speech, I will be talking about how the conclusion of President JFK's speech is urging us to help our country grow and that we should keep God at the center of this growth. So, to understand the theme of JFK's speech, you must first understand the historical context of when the speech was given. There was a lot happening during this time. It was the height of the Cold War, and the Cuban Missile Crisis was starting right after he was elected. There was also the space race happening during his presidency. Russia had launched a satellite in 1957, so there was a huge amount of pressure at the start of his presidency to compete with Russia and get a man on the moon. The Cold War was a huge threat because though there was no direct conflict, there was a big overhanging threat of nuclear warfare. And I don't know about y'all, but I would not want to be responsible for a nation when there was a threat of nuclear weapons. That is the historical context of the speech, but let's look at what this speech was even for. What even is an inauguration speech? It is a speech right after a president is elected and they are sworn into office, setting up what their presidency will look like, and is trying to inspire the nation. This speech was JFK's way of prepping the nation for his presidency and sharing his excitement and honor with the world. He also shares that God's work must become our own work. He was truly passionate about his work as president, and he was ready to face what needed to be done. So with that being said, here are JFK's words as he was becoming the new president of America. So let us begin anew, remembering on both sides that civility is not a sign of weakness and sincerity is always subject to proof. Let us never negotiate out of fear, but let us never fear to negotiate. In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its maximum hour of danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it. The glow from that fire can truly light the world. And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. My fellow citizens of the world, ask not what America will do for you, but what together we can do for the freedom of man. Finally, whether you are citizens of America or citizens of the world, ask of us here the same high standards of strength and sacrifice which we ask of you. With the good conscience our only sure reward, with history the final judge of our deeds, let us go forth to lead the land we love, asking his blessing and his help, but knowing that here on earth, God's work must truly be our own. When I listened to this speech, I took an interest in the part where JFK was saying, let us go forth to lead this land that we love, as well as when he says, knowing that here on earth, God's work must truly be our own. I think that President John F. Kennedy is addressing that not only did he have a job to do as president, but that we do as citizens of the world. We need to be a part of this country's growth. When we let God show us the path for our country, we are able to reach a better tomorrow. According to a paper written by Amanda Renee Bain that was published by California Polytechnic State University in 2011, JFK's speech was a unifier. What I mean by that is that he made it his goal not to single himself out, but instead bring the feeling that we are all in this fight to grow our country together. JFK and his speechwriter worked really hard to keep this collectivist mindset by using the word we over 30 times in his 9-minute speech. I appreciate that JFK wanted to unify the nation because only when we unify can we grow. And when I'm using the word grow, I mean grow in civility, grow in power, grow in our faith, and grow as a nation. So let's dive deeper into the grow in our faith part of growth. JFK brings this up in his speech, saying that the Lord's work must be our own. While America grows in power and size in general, we need to show God's love. Granted, we can't really show love during war, but this could be taken multiple different ways depending on the context. During the time when this speech was given, they could show love by protecting America, helping people on the streets who needed shelter, little things to show everyone that there is a higher power than the government's fighting. Now, while we don't have a major threat of nuclear warfare hanging over our heads currently, we still have big threats. We might not have the power of the government, but we still have the power to show people how much their God loves them. Inviting someone to church, passing out meals, these little acts can help our country grow. The more people who know God, the more we can grow as a nation. So, in conclusion, we have a responsibility to our country and to our God to help our nation grow. JFK brings this up in his inaugural speech, and that it is God's work through us, and that we can see that John F. Kennedy uses the end of his speech to make people aware of our job to help our country grow, and that God should be there to help us during this growth. I hope that you can take this message and apply it to your lives and help our country grow. Thank you.